Hey there, my loves. Welcome back to Scarlet Shadow Notes. It's me, sitting here with my mic, and probably too much caffeine. Though, to be fair, there's never really too much caffeine, just different levels of chaos. The dogs are already giving me that look that says, "Why are you talking to yourself again?" Anubis, in particular, thinks that he runs the show. So if you hear him grumble in the background, just know he's adding commentary. So I want to be really honest right from the start today. I'm tired. Not in the fun way, like, oh, I stayed up too late playing Stardew and trying to achieve digital farm perfection tired. No, this is the heavier tired. The kind that settles in your bones. The kind that comes from watching the news or scrolling social media and feeling like the world keeps spinning darker every time you check. And I know I'm not alone in this. You've probably felt it too. That sinking in your chest, that little flare of fear when something ugly happens out there in the world. Sometimes it makes you want to hide. Sometimes it makes you want to scream. And sometimes it just makes you want to crawl back into bed with a blanket fort and wait it out. So today I want to talk about that. About fear. Not in the jump scare horror movie sense, but the quieter, sneakier kind that slips into our lives and tries to run the show. Fear that gets twisted into anger or bitterness or even hate if we're not careful. But don't worry, I'm not here to give you a gloom and doom lecture. That's just not the vibe. What I am here to do is light a little candle in the dark, poke at the fear with the stick, and remind us that it doesn't get to define us. We do. You know, one of the reasons that fear feels so exhausting lately is because it's literally everywhere. Not just the personal, inside your head stuff, though we'll get there. It's out in the world, hitting us from every direction. Headlines, social media, people who thrive on stirring it up. Fear is contagious. Recently, there's been a lot of really ugly, dangerous language out there. I won't repeat the exact words. There's no need to give them oxygen. But it's the kind of rhetoric that makes you stop and feel your chest tighten. It's the kind that makes you want to lock your doors, even when you know logically that you're fine. When people in power use their platforms to encourage hate or to make others feel less than human, that's not strength. That's fear. It's fear pretending to be courage. Fear dressed up in authority and loudness. Fear saying, if they're different from me, they're dangerous. If the world changes, I'll lose my place. And here's the thing. When fear spreads like that, it touches everything. Conversations at the dinner table suddenly get sharp. Strangers on the street glare at each other. Even the people you love start reacting out of panic instead of calm. It's subtle, but it's there. It's like walking through a room where someone left the faucet dripping. That steady little drop can erode trust, calm, and peace over time. I remember one night, I was just scrolling, minding my own business, and one headline made my stomach clench so hard that I couldn't breathe for a second. My first reaction was anger. Pure, heated, I just want to throw my phone off the desk kind of anger. And then, as the night went on, that anger slowly turned into this gnawing pit of fear. What if the world is becoming nothing but anger and cruelty? I caught myself in that moment, and I had to stop. I I had to literally set my phone down and breathe. And that's when I remembered something that I learned a long time ago. Fear is powerful, but it doesn't get to be permanent. It doesn't get to decide the story of your life unless you let it. So I sat there with the dogs quietly watching, and I asked myself, what is this fear really trying to tell me? And I realized it wasn't warning me about something immediate. It was reflecting my anxiety about the state of the world, my sense of helplessness. And that's when it clicked. Fear is loud, but it isn't the truth. And that's our lesson here. Fear doesn't just exist in news cycles and headlines. It exists in all of us. It's part of being human. But when it goes unexamined, when we don't stop and ask, just why am I scared? What is this really protecting me from? That's when it can rot into something dangerous. Anger, resentment, and even hate. And here's the kicker. I've caught myself doing it, just like everyone else. I felt that spike of fear that makes me want to lash out, to snap at someone who didn't even deserve it, or scroll endlessly, letting the negativity flood my system. And every time I do that, I have to remember that's not who I am. That's fear having the wheel. I have to take back the wheel. So that's what I want us to remember today. Fear will always be around. It will always show up in big, scary ways in the world. It will sneak into our private lives in quiet, whispery ways too. But it doesn't get to stay forever. We don't have to participate in its cycles. We don't have to let it turn into hate. We get to decide how much space it occupies. And sometimes taking back the wheel is just as simple as one little act. Putting your phone down, doing breathing exercises, checking on a loved one, petting a dog, making a cup of tea. Just telling yourself, this is fear, it isn't the truth, I am bigger than it. Fear is loud, but love and laughter and connection, they're louder if you let them be. That's the choice every single day. So we just talked about fear out in the world, but fear doesn't just live somewhere abstract. It takes up space in our bodies. For me, it hits my stomach first. I've mentioned before how my anxiety can make my tummy feel like it's literally on fire, rolling, twisting, nodding in ways that just make it impossible to ignore. And honestly, that's one of the hardest parts, because when your body starts reacting, your mind follows. Every little thought gets magnified. Even something small, a random noise outside, a misread text, a shadow on the wall. My brain instantly launches into worst case scenarios. Fear loves to tell stories. My stomach spins, my chest tightens, and suddenly I'm living in a future that doesn't exist yet, panicking about something that may never happen. It's exhausting, physically and mentally. The dogs notice, of course. Dahlia paces like she's training for a marathon. Anubis barks at, well, apparently some ghosts. And Sunnie, normally the calmest of the three, shifts uneasily. And then the kiddo is usually nearby doing his own thing, reading, tapping on his phone, or joking about some random thought he had. At first, I didn't even notice him, just caught up in my own spiral. But then I realized his presence, even when quiet, gives me a frame of reference. The fact that he's moving through life calmly, just making offhand jokes and noticing things I wouldn't, reminds me that the world isn't entirely spinning out of control. Sometimes I try to distract myself. Water, tea, counting the number of grapes in the fridge, anything that gives my brain a tiny break. One day, I sat with a cup of 7-Up and just let the fizz fill the air while the dog circled and the kiddo was nearby, talking some nonsense about some game he's playing or something weird he saw online. It made me laugh in a way that I hadn't in hours. Silly? Absolutely. But it worked. That tiny laugh acted like an anchor in the storm of my body's fear. There are nights when the fear is so strong that I feel physically trapped in my own skin. I've curled up on the couch, clutching my stomach, wishing I could just shut off my brain. And even then, my kiddo doesn't try to fix it. He doesn't try to say the perfect thing. Sometimes he just says something ridiculous, like pointing out a minor detail I hadn't noticed. Or he makes a sarcastic comment about how dramatic I'm being, and it cuts through the tension. Just noticing him doing his thing, existing and living in the moment, reminds me that I don't have to be stuck in fear alone. Fear also shows up in unexpected, almost absurd ways. I found myself pacing in circles, overthinking conversations I had hours ago, or imagining disasters that probably won't happen. Sometimes it's a heaviness, like I'm dragging a shadow behind me that no one else can see. Sometimes it's impatience, snapping at someone I love, or overanalyzing a casual comment. And that's when the kiddo shines in his subtle way. He might respond to my sarcasm with an even dumber joke, or point out the ridiculousness of the scenario. And it reminds me that a lot of the fear is imagined. It's not real. It's just my brain being dramatic. And even in quiet moments, I notice how small rituals help. Drinking something fizzy, jotting down a thought in a notebook, or just watching my kiddo make some absurd observation about life can bring me back. Sometimes I narrate what's happening in my body to myself, almost like giving a play-by-play commentary. Okay. Sorry, Lucy is interjecting. I guess he has something to say about that too. But okay, stomach's tight, chest's heavy, brain is spiraling. But there's the kiddo talking about that cat video again. I can breathe. I can notice this. I'm safe for now. Fear is loud, rolling, twisting, burning, spinning, and contagious. But it can also be managed. Even in its loudest, most overwhelming form, we can name it, observe it, and slowly loosen its grip. And for me, when my kiddo's here, joking, observing, just being present, it adds this layer of normalcy, humor, and perspective. It's subtle, but it reminds me that fear doesn't get the final word. We do. And that's how we start taking the wheel back. So now that we've really sat with fear, both out in the world and in our own bodies, it's time to talk about what we can actually do with it. This is the part that is known as shadow work. Not scary, ritualistic, scary, dark shadow stuff. Just noticing the parts of ourselves that we usually avoid giving them attention and choosing how to respond. Fear is a shadow. It's not evil. It's not the enemy. It's a messenger trying to tell you something important. Maybe it's warning you about actual danger. Maybe it's reflecting your own anxiety or past experiences. Maybe it's pointing out a value that you care about deeply. So here are a few ways that I like to work with it. First off, we name it. Start by giving it a label. This is fear. Say it out loud. Write it down. Whisper it to a dog or cat, whatever feels safe to you. Naming it takes away some of its power. It's no longer a vague, creeping thing. It's something you can observe. Ask it questions, not in a confrontational way, gently. What are you protecting me from? What do you want me to notice? What would happen if I listened without panicking? Sometimes the answers are obvious. Sometimes they're surprising. But just asking opens a dialogue. Notice your body. Where does the fear sit? In your chest, stomach, shoulders? Sometimes fear shows up as tightness, heat, butterflies, nausea, or even restlessness. Bring awareness without judgment. Breathe into it. You're allowed to acknowledge it without acting on it immediately. Small rituals. This can be anything that grounds you. A walk, a blanket, your favorite drink, a dog on your lap, or something simple to remind you and your nervous system that you're safe for now. Journal or reflect. Even a single line works. I see this fear. I am still safe. I will choose my action. Writing it down separates your mind from the narrative of panic. And then compassion over judgment. When fear pushes you into anger or irritation, notice it without shaming yourself. Everyone experiences fear. We all have moments where it runs the show. The key is noticing and redirecting, choosing your actions consciously. I do this with my own fears all the time. Some days it's small. Some days it's massive, like the fear that my world could spiral, or the worry that I'm not doing enough, or the gnawing anxiety that my body is betraying me. And every single time I acknowledge it, I take a tiny step back into clarity, into control, into choice. Shadow work isn't a quick fix. It's not magic, but it's powerful. It's the difference between letting fear drive the car and being able to sit in the driver's seat, look at it in the rearview mirror, and say, I see you. You're loud, but I'm still here. So if you're sitting with fear today, and I know a lot of us are, remember, notice it, name it, ask it what it wants, and choose your response. Let your actions reflect the person you actually want to be, not the one fear wants you to be. And if you need a little encouragement, this is the work of a lifetime. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it consistently, gently, with curiosity and compassion for yourself. And just like that, we've spent some time with fear in the world, in our bodies, and in our own minds. I know that was a lot to sit with. Some of it might have been uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's exactly the point. Sitting with discomfort gently is a part of the work. I want you to remember a few things before we go. First, fear is not your enemy. It's part of being human. It's trying to communicate something important. It might be loud, it might be messy, but it doesn't get to define you unless you let it. Second, you are stronger than your fear. You have tools, small rituals, breathing, journaling, dogs, blankets, whatever keeps you grounded. You can observe it, learn from it, and still move forward. Third, compassion is key. For yourself, for others, for the world. When fear is contagious, don't let it spread hate. Let it spread understanding instead. And that's how we slowly shift the energy in our lives and in the world. And finally, keep showing up for yourself. Keep noticing, keep questioning, keep grounding. Some days it will be easier, some days it will be harder. But every small step counts. Every moment you choose to breathe instead of react, to see instead of judge, to love instead of lash out. That's progress. So I want to thank you for sitting with me today, for being willing to explore the shadow without fear of getting messy. You are not alone. We are all carrying our little sparks of light through the dark together. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd love it if you'd like, share, and subscribe so we can keep having these moments together. Go take care of yourself today. Maybe make a cup of tea, pet a dog, journal a line or two, whatever feels like a hug for your nervous system. And remember, the shadow isn't a place to fear. It's a place to learn, grow, and instantly claim your own power. I'll see you next time on Scarlet Shadow Notes. Stay soft, stay strong, and above all, stay you.